Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Brad, or A Stern Opinion on Twitter and TikTok. Today I'm going to be doing a Star Wars tier list, but this is going to only include the films, none of the TV shows, because I haven't watched Bad Batch in its entirety yet. I don't want to include any of the others until I've seen them all. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, I'm going to be doing this in chronological order, starting with A Phantom Menace, a bit of a polarising film. A lot of people dislike this film, and for justifiable reasons, but personally, I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. It does have some big flaws. The writing is diabolical, let's face it, it's not good. But the pod race, that's an excellent little sequence that we get, and obviously Duel of the Fates at the end. Yes, this film could have been a lot better, but I think it does get too much hate. And a lot of the hate is now being backtracked. A lot of the people are now coming forward and saying, do you know what, it's not that bad. And I'm one of these people as well. So I'm going to put this in the C category. Now, if you've never seen a tier list before, S is the highest possible quality of film. D is the lowest possible quality of film. So, with that said, let's carry on to Attack of the Clones. Now, again, this film gets a lot of hate, which is justified. Dialogue, again, a big issue with this film, but the entire Geonosis scene, everything to do with Geonosis, is great, in my opinion. The factory fight with Anakin and Padme when they're going through, I think that is great. Obviously, the Colosseum battle, when it's just Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan, I think is awesome. And then you get the rest of the Jedi turn up, the clones turn up to save the day with Yoda. I remember watching that when I was young. That was just epic. That was like, I wasn't integrated into the Star Wars world at that point, at 6 years old or something, when I first watched that, and that was just such a hype moment at that age. You also then get a brief Dooku fight with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then obviously they get, well, just thrown to one side. Yoda comes in, takes over, and scares him off. So there are good points to this film, but for the most part, there's nothing special. The whole Naboo sequence is dreadful. It pains me to watch that. And that's the main reason for my ranking. I'm going to put that in the D category. Now, the Clone Wars film is massively overlooked. Everybody thinks of the series, and for just cause. The series is mind-blowingly good. It is such a fucking masterpiece, that series. But the film gets overlooked. No, it is not anywhere near as good as the series, but it is better than some of the films in the entire Star Wars franchise. It's a lot of fun. It gives you good backstory and context. We introduce Ahsoka, and I think it needs more appreciation. I'm going to put this in the B category. Now on to Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, this is of the higher caliber films in the Star Wars franchise. You have Battle of the Heroes at the end, which is the iconic thing. This is what everybody thinks about. The dialogue, the fight sequence, the choreography is so impressive. It's not set design because it was blue screen, but the look, the fucking shots that they have when they're fighting on Mustafar are amazing. But you also get a Dooku rematch at the beginning, and I think a lot of people forget about that. That is one of the better lightsaber fights in the franchise. And I know there's not dozens of them, but there's enough of them for this to warrant being in the top. And there's also then that entire sequence when they're rescuing Palpatine, I think is not only funny, it's enjoyable, it's well written. It's actually well written, which is a shock for the prequels. The whole film is loved by many, but bits get skipped. People don't pay attention to certain things. They instantly go for the Battle of the Heroes, which is fair enough. This film is A. This is in the A category. Now on to Solo. This film got lumped in with the sequels, and I get it, they came out at the same time. but this film is nowhere near as bad as some of the sequels. If you watch this as a standalone movie, you will see that the acting is actually really good and the casting is fantastic. It's an unnecessary context story. Nobody asked for this, I don't think, but we got it. It could have been done so much better, but sadly it just fell short. The plot was a little bit, not boring, but just tame. There was nothing that really stands out. It's nothing that anybody talks about consistently within that film. It's a very forgettable film, but also very overhated. I think this deserves to go in the C category as well. Now, Rogue One. This is a different film entirely. Straight away, this is S tier. Okay, this is the highest possible quality of film. This is amazing. And it has everything you want from a Star Wars film without Jedi. It does not participate in the Skywalker saga in the strictest sense, but is one of the most key moments of the entire franchise. And it took us so long to get this film, and I'm so glad that we did get it, and in such a way. The hallway scene at the end is obviously iconic, but that's the only Sith Jedi, that's the only Force thing that we get in this film, really. And I'm glad of that. I'm glad that they took a step back and just focused on the rebels, on the resistance, and gave us a very heartbreaking but amazing story. Also, Alan Tudyk, K2SO, he's top 3 droids in the franchise, just straight up. This is S tier. A New Hope now. This film is so impactful, so influential, but it was a big risk. I mean, Harrison Ford didn't want to sign on for a trilogy because he wasn't sure how it was going to go, and even George Lucas didn't turn up to the premiere of this film because he was on holiday with Steven Spielberg. He didn't even have that much faith in it to be there for the big event. And obviously seeing how this has shaped the world of not only cinema but fandom, it's mind-blowing. It's such an impactful film. And it is very well written as well. This is the polar opposite of the prequels. This has good dialogue. This has good writing. The acting, no, it's not 10 out of 10 for the most part, but it is still good. And this film deserves to be in the A tier as well. Now, Empire Strikes Back is just... This is the best. Let's face it. I'll get it over and done with. This is the best. For so many reasons. Imagine seeing this in the cinema. Imagine having watched this. Having watched A New Hope. Then you've gone back 3 years later. You've gone, yeah, they're doing a sequel to that film. Let's give it a go. This is going to be really good. And then you get that fucking bomb dropped. You get I Am Your Father. Could you imagine the reaction of that back in the day? I can't. I'm only 23. I know I look 35. But I'm so envious of people that were lucky enough and fortunate enough to have been there and watched this develop. It's one of the best movies ever made. This is one of the few films I give a 10 out of 10 to, and it fully deserves to be in the S tier. Now on to Return of the Jedi. I'm not going to talk about this one too much. I just think it gets overlooked, and I don't see why. A New Hope, you think of as the one that began it all, like I said. Empire Strikes Back, you think of the best one, which is a very common opinion. Return of the Jedi then just gets bypassed, and I don't understand it. It is at least the same level as A New Hope. Fantastic film. What an ending as well. And it rounded off a trilogy that is of the highest caliber. It is one of the greatest trilogies ever made, and this deserves to be in the A bracket as well. Now, Force Awakens, I'm just going to come right out and say it. It's a good movie. Deal with it. The sequel trilogy is not good. But this movie on its own is, and it deserves so much more love than it gets. It set up what could have been such an amazing trilogy, and it was the subsequent 2 films that let it down. If you lump this in with those other 2, yes, it's not good. But if you watch it on its own and forget about the other 2, like you should, because it is an individual film within a trilogy, it is still a good film. It just, and that's the thing that pains me the most, is it had so much potential. You watch this film and you think, okay, this is good. Where are they going to go with it from here? And they just fucked it up. I'm going to put this in the B category. Last Jedi. I don't even really want to talk about it. It hurts me. This and Rise of Skywalker both actually pain me when I have to think about them existing. But they do. They are canon. We've got to deal with it at this point. They're not good movies. They're not even average movies. They are bad movies. They are poorly written. They're worse. There's worse writing in these in terms of the plot than there is with the prequels, and I'm confident in saying that. There's very little to like about these films other than the fact that they've got quite good cinematography and, quite good shots, but they should. The amount of money they invested in these films, they should be able to produce that. What they should have also been able to produce was a solid story, and they didn't. This is going in the D bracket. And lo and behold, same can be said for Rise of Skywalker. This film does not deserve any respect at all. I don't understand how this film got signed off on. The people involved in making this film surely had seen another Star Wars film at some point in their life, and they would have been able to realize that this is not going to work. This does not flow. This does not make sense, and this is not going to make fans happy. And they produced it anyway. And I don't understand the thought process or reasoning behind it, but it's done. It's out there. It's in the world. It's an actual thing, and it's going in the D bracket. If I had a lower bracket, it would be in there. Shameful. So yeah, there's my tier list for the films of the Star Wars franchise. I'm going to be doing another one next week for Harry Potter. Also, check out my socials at A Stern Opinion on Twitter and TikTok. Make sure you give me a follow on there. Drop a like and a subscribe. Really appreciate it, and see you next week.